Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 36 of the Anime Banter podcast with your host, Turtle, Sean, and Mike. Thank you for joining us today. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Yeah, can't complain. With the holiday
Good.
season coming up, really enjoying my
Yeah,
time.
That's
tis
true.
the season. Tis the season. You
It
doing good?
is.
Just we all just saw our buddy Greg and his wife and his kids, so that was cool. It was great and we all got to see each other. And Turtle, you and I see each other pretty frequently, but we don't get to see Sean too often in person, so that was really nice. The fact that we all got together.
Absolutely. It was great seeing you again, Sean.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time visiting you guys.
And we got to play some board games, got to play some Smash, got to buy some cards at the card shop. It's a good time.
100%.
What else was a good time was I just won a game of Snap before we started recording. Good old four
Oh
cuber.
yeah.
There you go.
Sean, I heard you did some ghost hunting recently.
Oh yeah. Yep. I did some ghost hunting at Haunted Hillview Manor in um Newcastle, Pennsylvania. So went there. It was a very good time. I Ghost hunting is kind of weird. I don't like going to places that I'm not allowed. If that makes any sense. Some people like go like urban, do some urban exploration, and they go into like buildings they shouldn't to do this stuff, and I won't do that because that's how you get yourself in trouble. Not a big urban exploration fan. So yeah, you pay some money and you go into a building that Hillview Manor itself is a former retirement home, and before that it was a poor farm. And for those who don't know what a poor farm is here, is essentially if you were a single mom, or you were an alcoholic, or you were maybe mentally challenged in a way that wasn't diagnosable yet. Maybe you had a like a form of autism that they didn't really know what was up, um, or maybe you were just poor and had nowhere else to go. You would live on what they called a poor farm sometimes, and what they would do is kind of like a commune, where like you would work on the farm, like you would harvest the crops, you would grow them, you would tend to the animals and things like that, and the or you would cook in the kitchen, and the farm essentially ran itself. So you didn't really need money. You had lodging, and you had like something to eat, and the basic needs that you needed to have were kind of met, because you had a roof over your head and you had food in your stomach, and you just exchanged that for your labor at the poor farm. And so if you didn't have another place in society, it sounds like not the worst idea in concept, but a lot of these places were kind of just poorly run. And I can't imagine, because of some of the people who ended up in the poor farm, that it was always safe for people to be in. So Hillview was a poor farm, but then apparently there was financial trouble with the owners, because I don't know if they were embezzling money or what was going on, but they no longer owned it, and that's when it became a retirement facility. And there were some people who were born on the poor farm and lived up until it's like stopped being a poor farm pretty much, and then like lived in the retirement facility, or they made a special deal with some of these people that they could live in the retirement facility. So it's funny, like some of these people spent their whole life living on that property. So we go ghost hunting, and I have all kind of gadgets. Anyone knows this SLS camera? It's a really interesting thing you can do with a Microsoft, like an Xbox 360 Connect. You guys remember the Connect?
Yeah.
I actually had one. Ex girlfriend of mine got it for me for Christmas or birthday or some shit one year.
Yeah, we used to use it for Just Dance, if you ever played that game. But the way the Connect works is it sends like a grid of it's a laser grid essentially, and it measures like where the lasers like stop against the body, and if the lasers are against your body, it it senses that there's a person's body there, right? So what they do is they make an SLS camera. It's called. I don't remember what the SLS stands for, but what they do is you hook up a Xbox 360 Connect to a tablet, and the tablet has an app and screen recording software. So you use the app to um, like you stand it there, and if there is something that's human shaped that walks in front of the laser grid, it is going to recognize it as a stick figure. So it shows you like a stick figure of a human body, and essentially, like in theory, if your SLS camera captures a stick figure and a person's not there, then perhaps it's a ghost.
Okay. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, so I have one of those cameras, and it is pretty nifty. But of course, I didn't catch any evidence on that. We did the Estes method, and we what the Estes method is you get a spirit box. A spirit box is a device that runs through frequencies very quickly of the radio, and in theory, a ghost can latch onto something that people are saying in the radio, and it can like come forward in the headphones, right? So um, with that, there's this thing called the Estes method, where you take the spirit box. One person has noise canceling headphones, and the people outside ask questions. And if the person hears a phrase over the radio, over the spirit box, then it's a very bizarre coincidence if that answer kind of corresponds with the questions that were being asked. So there are questions like you could ask a ghost, "What's your favorite hobby?" And we got an answer one time that came through the radio where someone said garden. So we're like, oh my gosh, it sounds like this ghost's favorite hobby is gardening. Well, it used to be a poor farm and a retirement home, so that's totally plausible.
All right.
Stuff like that. So you're like, do I put any stock in the spirit box? No, I hate it. It's my least favorite piece of gear for ghost hunting. However, it's kind of fun to do the Estes method and see what works out and what doesn't. The Estes method was developed in Estes Park, Colorado, where the Shining Hotel is, which I stayed at recently, which I talked about. So I may have actually already described the Estes method on a previous episode, and I don't remember if I did or not.
I was there. I don't remember if you did either, but thanks for breaking it down.
Yeah, yeah. So, the notable highlights from ghost hunting. There were a couple weird things with the Estes method, and two people reportedly saw a shadow figure in the exact same spot. If one person believes they see a shadow figure, you kind of think, oh, that was their eyes playing tricks on them, or a weird trick with a flashlight, or something like that. But no, two people reported seeing the exact same shadow figure, uh, like in the exact same spot, which is very bizarre and unlikely to happen. So it was very weird, and that is the most notable piece of potential evidence from the night.
Sounds like a good time. When's the next ghost hunting exploration?
That's a good question. We do Hillview Manor at least once a year, probably, because I don't know. It's like our local haunt, and it's a nice location, and we introduce people to it. The next one though is probably, boy, I don't think we have one on the calendar. There was talk, we were talking about going to man, what was it, the Lizzie Borden house maybe, but that kind of fell through. Oh no, the it was at the Conjuring house maybe. Maybe we're gonna end up at the Conjuring house somehow. I don't know. I think I'm not a big fan of like the Conjuring movie series. I know people who are like, these are the scariest movies I've ever seen, and I watch them like I laugh during them. But I also don't like the Ed and Lorraine Warren stuff. If you guys know who the heck that is,
I do not.
that's okay. I'm a horror movie guy, so I could talk about horror movies all day. Um, Speaking of that, we talked this another time, but I saw the Five Nights at Freddy's movie this past weekend for the first time, and never played the games. Watching the movie kind of makes me want to give the games a try.
Cool. Yeah, horror is definitely not my genre. So I've heard of Five Nights at Freddy's thanks to, YouTube. Many people have covered those. So I've heard of them. I used to watch a decent amount of game theory, and Matt Pat talked a lot about, the franchise and the lore. So I kind of enjoyed watching those, even though I never played the games and I don't intend to play the games. So maybe I should give the movie a watch just to check it out.
It's a good time. I recommend it, especially if you like video games, or if you went to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid in the '90s.
I sure did.
Yep.
Me too.
And that's what that. Did you hear? By the way, did you hear that Chuck E. Cheese is getting rid of all their animatronics because of Five Nights at Freddy's? People view
Oh,
them as
are they
creepy
really?
now. Yeah, they're getting rid of all the animatronics because people view them as creepy.
I mean, I always thought they were creepy, but I didn't realize that they like still had them going.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse, them getting rid of it or them still having it going.
Yeah, I thought Chuck E. Cheese anymore was just like, hey, here's pizza and games with tickets. Go have fun, kids.
Yeah, I guess they still had the animatronics, but yeah, I wonder if they're gonna switch to holograms or something.
Just have like a TV screen playing some sort of video in the background.
Maybe.
But I always thought those things were creepy. Even when I was a kid, I was like, man, those are creepy.
Shall we jump into the episodes?
Yeah, let's go in.
Let's do it.
Today, we are talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Episode 3, Ramona Rents a Video. Digging the look at young Neil to start the episode, to me, he always felt like an underdeveloped character in the film. Like, he got a little bit of screen time and end up dating Knives after Scott, like, ditched her. And like he took over for Scott in the band, but like we never really got a ton for young Neil in the movie. We see him, he's like, I'm a cinephile now, and I'm gonna write the screenplay and yada yada yada. And he's typing, he's like, he falls asleep and he realizes he only wrote the title. And then he goes to bed and he sees some random person using his computer in the middle of the night, and he calls it his sleep paralysis demon. And the person just sort of like shushes him. And when he woke up, he's like, "Cool! I wrote an entire feature-length screenplay in my sleep."
I can't believe he actually believed that.
That was really funny, and he's kind of dumb
Yeah,
for
it
believing
fits.
it.
It fits young Neil well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Young Neil's never known for his like intelligence level, right?
No, it's just funny. It's like we've all been there. It's like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to start this project, and then you sit down, and no matter how hard you try, you're like, I can't get the motivation to start.
Oh, I've been there many a time.
Yeah, definitely been there.
And so then we get the title card for the episode, and it's referencing Bubble Bobble. And it took me some time to recognize this one, but I used to play the crap out of that game with my brother when we were little.
I've actually never played Bubble Bobble.
Never played, but saw videos about it.
It was fun. It was a neat co-op game. And obviously you can play on your own as well. But it was pretty basic. I'm pretty sure my brother and I used Game Genie because that was the thing to do back in the day.
Oh, I had Game Genie.
Oh yeah.
Ramona shows up to Jolie's work saying someone kidnapped Scott and faked his death. And Jolie's like, "You're bleeping joking." And I love how they used the bleep joke for her from the movie. Like every time she swore in the movie, they bleeped it out. And here we are in the anime, and they're still bleeping out when she swears. It's great.
I just chuckled that like she's at work and she's just swearing up a storm, and like her boss pokes her head in and she's like, "Hey, stop effing swearing at work." It just made me laugh.
Yeah, I watched the movie, by the way, over the weekend. Um and it was just as good as I remember it being, actually. So very happy with the way that ended up.
It's such a
So
classic.
yeah, refreshed myself, and I'm like, dang, like this for the most part still holds up pretty well. Well, 'cause you always wonder, is this still gonna hold up?
I remember watching the movie the first time and having the biggest crush on Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Which one's Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
Ramona.
Oh, jeez, I forgot her name. Yeah, I
Anyways,
totally get after that movie though why you would.
yeah. Ramona tells Jolie that she saw Scott's subspace highway in her dreams. And Jolie's like, what the fuck is the subspace highway? So, just like us, she's also confused by the idea of it.
Dude, I saw that, and this scene got me. This scene got me good. She's like, "Oh, what do you mean by subspace highway?" And Ramona's like, "Oh, never mind." I'm like, "No, yes, mind. Please tell me. What are we talking about?" They just gloss right over it again. I'm never gonna get my exclamation, am I?
You'll get nothing and like it.
They're not gonna explain. I just want to know.
Ramona goes back to the venue and pays the guy $10 to review the security tapes of Scott's death. And while she's watching, she noticed that someone pulled Scott through a portal to make it look like he died. And when she tells Jolie this, Jolie's like, I knew it was too good to be true. I knew Scott couldn't be dead. Ramona says she's responsible for finding Scott, and Jolie can't believe that they actually had a great date.
Julie hates Scott so much.
Yeah, apparently.
It's great. It's a funny gag. I mean, I could totally see why she would, though. Like, the Scott we see isn't the most motivated person in the world. Like, lazy, mooches off of Wallace, like, broke Kim's heart, dating a 17-year-old. He's not the most likable person.
That's
Yeah, I was gonna
fair.
say that he's generally considered not a great person uh, throughout most of this.
Jolie tells Ramona that the suspects are Steven, young Neil, Envy Adams, and Kim. So Ramona decides, okay, I'll start with Kim. She dated Scott. She knows Scott the longest. That'll be my first person to talk to. And before Ramona meets up with Kim, we see Kim, Steven, and Knives just hanging out. Steven is naturally obsessing over the band sucking and having to replace Scott as the bass player. And what if the bass player makes the band suck? And Kim's like, we already suck. They can only make us better.
That got me. I like that.
Kim then asks Knives if she's ever played and if she wants to just have a little jam session. And I thought it was an interesting deviation because young Neil is the one to replace Scott in the movie. And so it's just interesting to see Kim and Knives interacting on more than a I can't believe Scott's dating a 17-year-old aspect.
I really like this little scene with the jam session. Like it there's not a whole lot to it, but just having a bass and a drum just like jamming. It was awesome. I was really riding the vibe. I like it a lot.
I was really digging the jam session, like the tunes they were putting down.
I could have liked if it went on longer than what it did.
Same.
I was just getting into it.
I was just sort of tapping my toes and just sort of rocking while they were
Yeah,
playing.
it was good.
Steven walks in and he is absolutely mesmerized by their jam session. And he's like, nice. How long have you been playing bass for? And she's like, what time is it? He's like, 4. She's like, oh, 4 hours. And then Kim realizes she's running late for work.
I laughed really hard at this joke, but I laughed when Knives was like, "What time is it?" That's what made me laugh. I didn't. They didn't even get to the punchline of 4 hours. Like, what time is it? And that's when I started to laugh. I was like, "How long you been playing? What time is it?"
That
That's
was
all it took
great.
for me.
Yep. I was laughing pretty hard at that. And Steven's just like, oh, you want a spot in the band?
Oh, what did he say? Did you ever collaborate with a professional songwriter?
Yeah. And I was like, no. So Kim works at a video store, and both her and her boss are just like, whatever, they're not feeling it. The store's dead. And every time a customer comes in, the boss calls for Kim to take care of the customer. Ramona walks in and she's just perusing the store and they're talking about everything. and we learn about Kim and Scott's dating background, which was really cool to me because in the movie, like, we know they date, and at the end of the movie, Scott apologizes for the way he broke things up off with Kim, but like, we never really got to know any of that background. So to me, it was really cool to actually go into this history.
Yeah, I kind of agree. When I watched the movie recently, I watched through and I was like, do they ever explain their history? And the answer is no. They just don't. Kind of just gloss over it.
And Ramona's explaining to Kim the subspace highway, and Kim's like, "Oh, so that's how you're delivering these DVDs so fast, and you're putting us out of business." I love how Ramona's like, "You mean Canada?" She's like, "No, the video store." Yes, the subspace highway is putting Canada out of business. But Kim is the first person to actually understand the subspace highway, and Ramona sort of is like, "Finally, someone gets it."
I wish I got it.
Yeah, I don't know crap.
So we hear the door to the video shop open up again, and Kim's boss is like, "Kim, customer." And in walks Roxy Richter, Evil X number 4. And we learn that her and Ramona dated in college, and it sounds like things didn't go well because she's an Evil X. And Ramona's like, "Hey, sorry." Like, Ramona's trying to apologize and like wants to talk about their feelings, and Roxy's like, "No, I don't want to talk about my feelings. I want to fight." We get the Ramona versus Roxy fight screen, which is great. And Roxy's attacking with her sword, and just like the movie, Ramona pulls her big ass hammer out of the bag, which I always loved that in the movie.
Yeah, like I don't remember the movie, so I was like, how did she pull this giant hammer out of that little bag? I was
Subspace
not ready
Highway.
for that. Oh man, they
I
gotta
also
explain this.
I also love that that she did that because in the movie, I don't know, I just like the whole I like the whole concept of all of that. It's fun.
It's like a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside. I It was a nice little twist here on the fight between the two of them, because in the movie, Scott's like, the only reason the two fight is because Scott refuses to fight Roxy because she's a girl, and here it's just nope. The two of them go at it. There's no Scott saying, "I can't hit you. You're a girl." I really dug this fight, and it was just cool because like they're fighting in the store, and then a one of the racks falls on them, and it teleports them into the movie world, and like they just keep fighting in different movie settings, and like there's like a film grain look to the fight and everything. And then we learned that Kim can use the remote to control the fight. Like, she could pause it, she can rewind, and they're just sort of like staring at each other like, what the hell?
This was a really cool play sequence. Really well done.
Yeah, I am impressed with the animation for this show.
You are not?
I am
Oh,
impressed.
I wasn't sure if you said you are or are not.
I am.
Yeah, I like the film grain to make it look like an old like video during the fight.
They even did like a black and white, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. No, it looked great. It was fun. It was really cool to watch.
Ramona apologizes to Roxy for the way she left, and Roxy accepts the apology, but says she won't let Ramona win. So the two end up fighting back in the video store, and we see that the store is a mess and it's raining on them. And finally, the fight ends, and it's like, I think at this point they both have been through so much hell that they're just like, we can't keep going. Like, we're done. And Ramona's like, look, I still want to be your friend. And I love how Roxy's like, with benefits? And Ramona's like, no. And Roxy's like, well, it's worth a shot.
That cracked me up.
I got a good kick out of that. We then see Kim and Roxy sort of flirting and getting closer and closer to each other, and they kiss and make out for a little bit, and then they're like, nope, no sparks. And they're like, well, worth a shot.
That also cracked me up.
Roxy leaves, and Ramona and Kim are cleaning up the store, and Ramona picks up a cardboard standee of Lucas Lee, and she's just like, ugh. And Kim is like, Lucas Lee, Hollywood hunk, is one of your evil exes? Like, she's having a hard time wrapping her head around that being one of Ramona's evil exes.
In the movie, Scott had a hard time wrapping his head around it. But then again, Scott dated Envy Adams. We all know
Yeah.
everyone loves Envy, so that he gets kind of to fire back on the
They
star
each
shot.
have their celebrity ex.
Yeah, exactly.
The episode ends with Jolie stepping outside her house, and she sees Gideon walking by in the rain. And he's like, you don't remember me, do you? She's like, no, can't say I do. Or she's like, oh, you're Gideon Graves. He's like, Gideon's a persona I created when I moved to New York. You wouldn't recognize me without that. My birth name is Gordon Goose. And he's like, I couldn't even get a reservation at McDonald's on my way here.
That made me
And
laugh.
I got a good.
That's a great line. Yeah.
It's like, I'm so down on my luck, I can't even get a reservation at McDonald's.
When I asked them, they laughed at me. I was like, dude, there are no reservations. You just walk in.
Just McDonald's. Go order your Big Mac and be done with it. So Julie recognizes them, and she sort of has like the sparkly remember, like romantic nostalgia look in her eyes. And the episode ends with her inviting Gideon, or as he's or Gordon Goose, in, which me personally, I have a hard time calling him Gordon Goose. To me, the character is Gideon.
What the hell kind of name is Gordon Goose?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, if that was my name, I would change it to anything else as well.
That's fair. That's fair.
Turtle, do you want to talk about the end credit song?
Yeah, see, this show is they decided to switch it up, and they got a different song for the end credits for episode 3, and then a different song for the end credits of episode 4. But for episode 3, the song is called "You Wouldn't Like Me" by Tegan and Sarah. They are an indie pop duo from Canada, which, I mean, appropriate. The show takes place in Canada. They have released apparently 10 studio albums as of 2022, so good on them. This song is for me, it's just okay. It fits the show well, and it vibes with the indie uh, vibe the show has. I'm just not super into this kind of music, so I mean, this won't be in my song rotation, but it's fine.
And now it is time for Mike's Beer of the Week. This week's beer is another fancy beer from Voodoo Brewing, and it is their Black Magic aged in brandy barrels, a 13% Imperial Stout aged in Christian Brothers brandy barrels. When I pulled this out of my fridge, I saw that there was a date written on it, and that date was August of 2020. This thing has been aging for 3 years, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe it's been in my fridge that long. I was shocked at how long this has been in my fridge for. I actually had 2 bottles of these and had a bottle of this back in September of 2020 during COVID. At that time, my friends and I would try to get together, and when the weather was nice, we would watch football outside. And so that's what we were doing. We're like, well, we can at least drink outside and watch football outside. So that's what we did. I must have gotten close to the potential aging process for this beer because I noticed some sediment and sludge at the bottom of the barrel, or at the bottom of the bottle, when I poured it into the glass. This beer for me is hard to really properly rate because when I had it 3 years ago, I really loved it. I gave it a 4.5 on Untappd, and I'm going to stick with that initial rating because when I had this beer the other night, I don't know if it just, from the aging process, I got more of the brandy flavor than the stout flavor, but it was not a 4.5 this time around in my book. So we're going to stick with that initial 4.5 rating, and the Untappd average rating is a 4.47. Episode 4. Whatever. The episode begins with Lucas Lee waking up in his mansion and he wakes up wearing shades, which I just started laughing at.
The visual gags are so good in this show.
Like, I feel like this is one of those shows that you can watch multiple times and pick up a different gag every time you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, for sure.
We learned that Lucas lives in Glendale, California. I was a little surprised they didn't say Glendale, America.
America.
We see his skateboards, including a broken one, lining the wall. I thought this broken one was... Originally, I thought this was a reference to the skateboard from the movie, as he falls and when he's trying to grind the railing. But later we learn the real history of this broken skateboard. And he skates down from his bedroom to his yard. And there were some real Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 vibes here when he was skating. Like, he was grinding on, like, awnings and statues. It's like, all that was missing was, like, looking for the letters to pick up and a bitchin' soundtrack.
That's true. I definitely got those vibes as well.
I also got those vibes, yeah.
And just to throw out there, the song that's playing while he's Tony Hawking, as I'll call it, it's "The United States of Whatever" by Liam Lynch. So it's a very, very appropriate song for the episode title as well. So
I was totally waiting for Superman by Goldfinger to pop on. His skateboarding causes a hell of a traffic jam throughout the city. And he gets he gets a call from his agent on his flip phone, which I just laughed at about. It's like, oh, old tech.
yeah, what year does this take place?
We never really find out. I mean, I'm assuming it'd be like 2010, just sort of like the movie, but or early 2000s, like mid 2000s. But
I've had a smartphone for so long, I forget when they made flip phones when they were popular.
same. And you had like to pay for your text messages, and your phone had like Snake and maybe one other game if you were lucky.
Oh yeah, we had to live through that.
We came out stronger at the end. Came out
That's
stronger.
right.
Yeah, I'm okay with the way things are now. Some people are like, oh, I miss the way things used to be. I'm like, nope, it's totally fine the way it is.
I just remember how much of a pain in the ass it was to send a text. 'Cause it's like, all right, you have to hit each button the amount of times like it would be on the keypad.
Yeah, you had to text letters via numbers. There was no like text pad to type letters. You had to keep hitting the number 2 3 times to get to the letter C.
And people had limited text. Like, I had friends who were like, hey, I can't send more than 200 texts a month. Can you call me?
Ah, the good old days.
Back in my day, you couldn't call someone till after 9 o'clock at night without being charged. Lucas's agent tells him he is one mistake away from being sent to movie jail. And Lucas is like, that's okay, because I have a get out of jail free card. My smile. And he starts with this big shit-eating grin on his face. And his agent's like, we're talking on the phone. I can't see your smile.
That was pretty good. I like that a lot.
I was dying. She says his next role is taking him to Toronto, Canada. Skate or Die is the title card reference here, and it's a very fitting reference for Lucas Lee. I don't believe I ever played this game growing up.
I've heard of it, but I've not played it myself.
We're back to Ramona, and she dyes her hair. I love how she's dyeing her hair every episode.
This was the episode where I caught on to that. I'm like, is she gonna dye her hair every single episode? Is this like every day she's changing her hair? That's a lot of money.
Amazon must pay well for drivers that use the subspace highway.
I guess I'm sure that's not cheap to get all them colors and dye your hair every day. My goodness.
I always laugh how the cat is like meowing whenever she
Yeah,
dyes her hair.
they got to have a scene with the cat.
Ramona pulls up her suspect list, and Kim is crossed off, and she circles Lucas as the next potential suspect to question. We're outside the film studio, and we see Lucas fangirls are waiting outside. And they misspelled his name when they lined up.
Yeah, I caught
Instead of
that.
instead of it saying Lucas Lee, it says Lucas Eel.
I didn't even
was
catch
good.
that, honestly. Like, I totally missed that.
The one security guard's like, "Wait, Lucas Lee is here?" And there's like, "Yeah, why do you think we're here?" He's like, "Oh, think I can get a selfie?"
That was pretty funny.
Ramona skates by without being noticed. What I thought was really cool though was the fact that the two security guards are voiced by Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Oh,
I
I didn't
saw
know
their
that.
credits at the end of the episode. Yeah, I was stunned.
I
And
missed
as we
that.
know, they have done plenty of work with Edgar Wright, the director of Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So
Makes sense.
very
Good
much.
cameo.
And at the end, I'm like, oh. After I realized they did the voices, I'm like, and they showed the security guards again at the end. I'm like, oh, they even look like like Simon and Nick Frost.
Oh, yeah. See, that's me not paying attention to the little stuff like that. It went right over my head.
Ramona walks into the where they're shooting the movie, and we learn that the movie that Lucas is shooting is young Neil's screenplay from the last episode. And Ramona's shocked that he wrote a Lucas Lee movie. And she's like, wait, is that like the venue from the show? He's like, yeah. And she's like, wait, you wrote a movie about like what happened at the show? He's like, yeah. And like, young Neil's just like, yeah. So, anyways. And then Envy Adams walks in, and we learn that Envy Adams is playing the role of Ramona in the movie. Ramona's like, what the hell?
Getting too meta.
Yeah. We then learn that the movie is titled Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life.
Episode 1.
Episode 1, which I got a good and then I really loved the joke about the director for the movie, because the director of the movie is Edgar Wrong instead of Edgar Wright.
I missed that.
I also missed that one.
We learned that young Neil's screenplay is based on the idea of Scott actually winning the fight against Matthew, aka the actual Scott Pilgrim movie.
Too meta. Too meta.
I was dying. I'm like, this is great. I had so much fun with this episode.
I like this one a lot too. It was like when this started to line up, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I see what the show's doing now.
Ramona goes outside and knocks on Lucas's trailer. Lucas opens the door, and we see that he is playing a super jacked Scott Pilgrim. And Ramona's like, "Have you seen Scott? I believe he's been kidnapped. Yeah, like she's asking all these questions, and Lucas is just like, I'm Scott. I'm Scott Pilgrim." It's like, and I just started laughing because it's like he's method acting, and he's not even trying to method act.
Yeah.
He's just like that much of an airhead that he's just like, yeah, I'm Scott. What do you want? So Lucas shuts the door on the trailer, and Ramona's just like, We then see some random guy starting to hit on Ramona, and she is super grossed out by this, and so was I.
Yeah, it was it was awkward and kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, pretty weird.
Like they did that weird like close up halo effect as she was skating away. I'm just like, this is weird, and like it felt totally unnecessary because like this character doesn't even last more than like 5 minutes. We learn that he's the actor hired to play Wallace in the movie, and he gets replaced by Wallace within like 2 minutes.
Which I thought was pretty funny. Wallace just walks in and like totally, owns being himself. And the director's like, "You're perfect. You're hired."
You're hired to play yourself.
You're perfect to play yourself.
And Wallace is like, "Well, what about the other guy?" And he's like, "Oh, he's already gone." And he moves like out of camera, and the dude's he's disappeared.
He's like, he's already being escorted off the premise.
Lucas Lee even looks over and he's like, "Whoa, he's gone." It was really good, really funny.
So young Neil or Wallace and Lucas are pretty much reciting the exact lines from the start of episode 1, and we take a cut from the movie, and Wallace is like, "Young Neil, how did you know what Scott and I said to each other that morning?" And young Neil's like, creative process?
He has no idea about anything. And it's kind of funny.
Young Neil has no problem with being a fraud.
I was just laughing so hard at all of this. We then go back outside to Lucas's trailer, and Ramona's knocking on it again. She's like, "Look, I know you have a girl in there." He's like, "I'm reading the script." She's like, "No, you have a girl in there. So Lucas opens the door up, and she walks in, and sure enough, he's reading the script. He's like, "What kind of idiot would write this this Scott Pilgrim as a Lucas Lee character? A Lucas Lee character would never be tricked into grinding a rail to his death like in the Scott Pilgrim movie."
That
I
killed. Yeah,
I
that's
was dying. I just remember from the movie, it's like Scott's like, "What? You think it's too hard? It's too long?" Like he just sort of goads them into doing it.
yeah, but with the excuse, chicks are watching. I think he said.
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's like, you think you're gonna trick him in? He's like, chicks are watching. He's like, "Ooh, yeah, I could do it."
It's like, yeah, you're right. I should do it. But I laughed how it's like, what kind of idiot would grind to his rail to a to his death? It's like this movie makes no sense. Lucas then calls the ending of the movie unrealistic, as Ramona would have moved on to the next one, and Ramona would not have dated someone that was dating a 17-year-old at the same time, which Ramona just sort of lets go fly over her head. Like she has a puzzled look on her face for like a hot second, and then it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely some theme changing in this series. And before we started recording, I was telling Turtle that this series is definitely, I wonder if times are changing a little bit, and people are taking better care of their mental health and becoming a little more self aware. And doing things like finding a healthy way to mend relationships with your exes is just a better way of dealing with your problems than having your current boyfriend just wail on them. So I don't know. I feel like they're trying to take a refreshed look here at the Scott Pilgrim story. And I think when you write a story, what was Scott Pilgrim written? Like
The
2000,
movie itself came out in 2010.
which means
I
the
forget
story itself
when
was written
the.
at least before 2008, probably maybe 2006 or 7.
I think it's coming out. They're about to celebrate their 20th or 25th anniversary. It came out in 2004.
Oh, yeah, 2004, right? So a story in 2004. You ever go back and like watch one of your favorite movies from like the 90s, and you're like, oh, that's problematic. Oh, that's problematic. You're like, you can't say that anymore. Or, oh, that was like okay in the cultural lens back then, but it's kind of not now. Um, I wonder if they're kind of trying to do like an updated version here where the power isn't in the man's hands, the power is in the woman's hands, because women are more well, I say they are, but women are more encouraged than ever now to be empowered, to fight their own battles and address their mental health. So I think that the story is getting a 20-year update isn't so bad. It's a fun take on the classic tale.
I've been really digging this. Like last episode, we saw Ramona give Roxy closure, and as we see in this episode, she's giving Lucas closure later on in the episode. So it's like if every episode is just Ramona giving closure to each of her exes, to me that's a okay.
It seems to be what this story's all about. Ramona getting closure with her exes. Um, Not bad. I mean, yeah, I'm here for the ride. I'll stick it out.
Like in the movie, we sort of we sort of in a way see Scott and Envy get closure, and we see Scott and Kim get closure, but like it's not nearly as pronounced as it is in these two episodes.
Yeah, Scott gets closure in the movie, whereas Ramona gets closure here. We'll see. I mean, Gideon was like, some of these ex boyfriends are kind of despicable in the movie. Like Gideon, um,
Oh boy.
was like really controlling and manipulative, and like it's really hard to redeem a guy like that. So I wonder if they're gonna have it be as harsh in this one as it was in the movie, because yeah, it was really bad. He had like all that control over her.
It's why I had a hard time feeling bad for him at the end of episode 2. It's like because in the movie, like my head is wrapped around the Gideon in the movie where it's like you put a mind control chip in her.
Yeah, that's how abusive he was. Yeah, like some of the boyfriends, like one of the boyfriends is a jerk and kind of just can't let go. Yeah, not very admirable, but like not completely despicable. Maybe if they had a chance to talk things out, the guy moves on. But the Gideon one is like, I'm like, no, that's pure abuse. Like, so I don't really know how they're gonna redeem this guy because like, what if and I'm worried that they're gonna come to a conclusion that men who do despicable deeds are also redeemable because sometimes there are people who just aren't. Like, you should not mend your relationship with this person, and you absolutely should avoid them because they are toxic. So we'll see where it goes.
While Lucas is giving the real Scott crap for dating a 17-year-old, we learn that Lucas is quote unquote dating a 17-year-old, and the fact that he's dating the 31-year-old actress who's playing Knives in the movie. But the media's like, he's dating a 17-year-old. Sums up media so well anymore, where so much of the media is being first more so than being right.
Yeah, being first instead of being factual.
The paparazzi then breaks into Lucas's trailer. He protects Ramona. He's like, go, get out of here. I'll cover you. And Ramona tosses Lucas his skateboard to use as a weapon, which I got some serious Bart Simpson from the Simpsons arcade machine game vibes here. And I love how the paparazzi are the ninjas.
The ninjas are back, man.
They're back.
As we saw them with Envy in episode 1.
We then get the Lucas Lee versus the paparazzi fight. And Lucas is handling the paparazzi pretty well to start. Like, we just see in the lower right hand corner, his points are keep going up and up and up and up as he defeats the paparazzi. And eventually, like, the paparazzi like form this weird like straight line like missile, and Lucas like takes his board and like spins, and they just sort of like clashing against each other, very reminiscent of like the Kamehameha and the Gallic gun going back and forth.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say the points. It was actually like money,
Yes,
and it made me think of the video game. Like, was that not a reference to the Scott Pilgrim video game where like you would beat up dudes and they would drop coins, you'd pick them up, and they keep track of what money you had?
yeah. I mean, in the movie as well, whenever Scott would defeat an evil X, they would drop coins as well. So it's carrying that theming through. But yeah, it's defeat enemies, get points, and in this case, the points are coins.
It was pretty cool. I liked it.
I did too. His board breaks, and we see that he defeats the rest of the paparazzi, even though his board broke. And I was really digging the tunes during this fight.
Yeah, during this fight sequence, they had Police Truck playing, which is by the band Dead Kennedys. So this episode was very very musical. A lot of songs going on.
Yeah, this episode was crushing it with the music. The whole series is crushing it with the music.
Even the movie crushed it with the music. I feel like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
been one thing that's always been there with the Scott Pilgrim franchise was great music. Ramona walks into the gym where Lucas fell, and she's like, "Do you need help?" And Lucas is like, "Why would you help me?" And Ramona's like, "I've always helped you." And then we see a nice little montage from when they were dating. Like, Lucas would be skating, he would fall, she would put a band-aid on his knee. Like, she would always help him, like, with skateboarding stuff, school stuff, whatever it might be. Until one day, she decides to leave with Todd Ingram, Evil X number 3. And Lucas is like, "That's the day I decided to become who I am now. So in a way, thank you." And Ramona apologizes. She's like, "Look, I'm sorry." Like, she gives Lucas the closure that he needs. And we see the paparazzi are trying to like break into the gym, and like Lucas is spent. He can't fight anymore. And Ramona's like, "Let me help you." We see Ramona skating out of the studio, and she gets outside, and all of a sudden Lucas's head pops out of the bag.
That made me laugh.
I also thought it was funny because I guess if she could store the hammer in there, she could certainly store Lucas in there.
Can store anything in there. I just
Yeah,
love how
bag of
like
holding.
Lucas oh, like he's sort of giving Ramona a hard time. Like, it's just funny like seeing just Lucas's head like in the bag, like turning and like talking. It's like, where's the rest of my body? And he like climbs out of the bag. He's like, well, I'm out of the movie. I'm done being an actor. And Ramona's like, okay, well, Lucas clearly didn't kidnap Scott. And he's like, yeah, I was at this place getting pictured by the paparazzi. Go check it online if you don't believe me. Ramona then scratches Lucas's name off the list as Todd Ingram emerges from a vegan portal. And he is at the studio to audition for the role of Scott Pilgrim. And I gotta say, I am hyped for next episode if it means we get the vegan police.
Keep hearing about this vegan police.
It's got to be next episode. Well, they're going out of order though.
That's true.
Because Lucas Lee should have been, episode 3 if we were going in order, but it wasn't.
That's a good point. I hope we get to talk about the vegan police next week.
I feel like we will, right? I mean,
I hope so.
I wonder if the twins, Katayanagi twins. I wonder if they're each going to get separate episodes. Like, what if each twin, they don't lump them together as one generic person, kind of. Instead, give them like their own personalities separately.
I don't know, but we've been seeing the one thing we didn't talk about was we kept seeing their robot spying on everyone these 2 episodes, and everyone kept mistaking it for like a garbage can. Turtle, do you want to talk about the bitching end credit song?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. The ending credit song is Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. It's a classic. I mean, what else is there to say? It's a great song.
A true classic.
I love it. One of my favorites.
I wasn't expecting it, that's for sure. It started playing. I was like, oh, well, would you look at that?
What did you 2 think of these episodes?
Pretty good, but I thought the Lucas Lee versus Paparazzi fight went a little too long for my liking, personally. I just wasn't very invested in it. I don't mind though. They're doing this whole kind of each week. It looks like if they stick with the formula, each week we're going to have Ramona resolve things with one of her exes. They're probably in the final episode resolving things with Gideon somehow. And yeah, I mean, I guess this format is fine for now. I wonder if they're going to shake things up though, because I don't know if one X per week with an extended fight scene is like a formula that I want. I'm not sure if that's what I want. I don't know what I want. I'll watch and find out.
How about you, Turtle?
I definitely like these episodes more than last week's, the first 2. Again, like I said before, I don't really remember the movie, so the first 2 episodes, I wasn't really sure what this show was or what it was about or what was going on. These 2 episodes kind of put me on the path like, okay, I think I get what this show's doing. It's kind of like quote unquote parallel timeline to the movie where you have the same characters, but it's playing out in a different kind of way, which I'm fine with. And I enjoyed these a lot more. I would agree with Sean. I think the paparazzi battle went on a little too long. Um, I mean, it was cool in the beginning, but like the longer it went, the less interested I was in it. But as a whole, I like these 2 episodes more than the first 2. So I'm in. I want to see more.
I really dug these episodes. I don't know if there's going to be an episode I don't like of this show, though. I mean, that's just the Scott Pilgrim bias in me, I think. But I really like the shows. I liked how we're seeing more about the other characters not named Scott Pilgrim, even though it's the Scott Pilgrim Takes Off show. Just like getting more history about Kim, getting to see more of young Neil, learning more about the evil exes, seeing the closure. Like, that's the one thing that always sucks about when a relationship ends, no matter what kind of relationship, whether it be romantic or even like a friendship level or even like a work thing. Like, when you don't get closure, it's the worst way to end it. Like, it just sort of gnaws at you. Like, it's like without that closure, it's like, well, what did I do wrong? Was there something I could have done more? So like seeing Ramona and her evil exes like get closure with each other is really cool. I really like the concept of it. I actually didn't mind the length of the paparazzi Lucas Lee fight. And like watching it, I was like, why does some of this stuff look so familiar? And then I'm like, oh, they were taking bits out of the fight with Scott from the movie. Like when all the paparazzi piled onto Lucas Lee, it's like, oh, it was when all Lucas's Lee body doubles or stunt doubles were piling on Scott Pilgrim in the fight. I'm like, hey, that's a cool reference. Really dug the episodes. Really dug the music. Can't wait to watch the next 2 episodes. I am loving this show. And now it is time for the Evil X of the Week. Turtle, who's your Evil X of the Week and why?
My evil X this week, I'm going for Roxy. Lucas Lee is funny. I enjoy him. But in episode 4, it seemed like he had moved on from Ramona and he wasn't really like an evil X. He was just sort of like, hey, I got really bummed out, but I moved on. I became a famous movie star and I've hooked up with a lot of girls. So it didn't seem like he was like, really broken up about Ramona and them breaking up. Roxy, on the other hand, was like devastated, and we got her, backstory, and she was like, crushed. So to see them reconcile and, be friends after all this, it was good, So I'm for this week, I'm going with Roxy. It was a good backstory. They were able to, like I said, reconcile and get along. So I mean, there could even be a point in future episodes where if like a major fight scene comes down, Roxy could even step in to help Ramona. So that's, she's made an ally out of this former enemy. So I'm going with Roxy.
Sean, who's your Evil X of the Week and why?
I'm also going to pick Roxy. Some of the points Turtle had were pretty good. Lucas already, by the time he even chatted with Ramona, he didn't even feel like an evil X anymore. It felt like he actually had his life together and wasn't interested in her in that way. So it was kind of weird. But I don't know. At the same time, Roxy's story was pretty compelling. I thought she was definitely still very interested in Ramona and still very bummed out. I felt like she was extremely hurt, even though Lucas was left. She left Lucas to be with vegan guy. His name I can't remember all of a sudden. But yeah, I just I thought I liked their fight scene better than I liked Lucas Lee's fight scene as well. So I am gonna make that kind of like a tiebreaker for me. So go Roxy. How about you, Mike?
I'm going with Lucas Lee once again. I really dug the Roxy story, but it might be my last time to pick Lucas, and I mean, it's hard to pick against Captain America. But I just love his character, and we see some growth from him. Yes, he's not really at this point he's sort of moved on, and even Ramona's like, then why'd you join the League of Evil X's? He's like, marketing. He's so wrapped up in his Hollywood world. He moved on, but he sort of used Ramona dumping him as the push to get him. He's like, yeah, when I saw you walking with Todd, I decided I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and that's why I'm here now. But yeah, he's just a hilarious character, and he's one of my favorites. So yeah, I'm going Lucas Lee this week. Thank you all for joining us this week as we watched Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. We hope you join us next week for episode 37 of the Anime Banter podcast, where we will watch episodes 5 and 6 of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Please give us a 5-star review on all platforms that allow reviews. If you are listening on YouTube, please like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Turtle, do you have anything you would like to plug?
You can always find me on my YouTube channel, RPG Treasure Trove. I sit down with a friend, couch co-op, and play through an RPG game. So if that's something you're interested in, please check me out. Like and subscribe, and leave some comments if you want to chat.
Sean, do you have anything you would like to plug?
Yeah. As per usual, I'm going to plug the Demon Files podcast. You can catch me over there. doing the voices for JB and Young Montgomery. Please, we're still putting new episodes out. We're about to hit our mid-season finale, so please give us a listen.
The Anime Banter podcast can be found on Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. Thank you all for joining, and we will talk to you next week.